Thank you so much, Nate. What a great ending from Luke, isn't it? Like we have so many talks about why three is important. Why it's changing, and this "don't be evil, can't be evil" resonates a lot in all of us, I'm sure. Now, this is a great way to start this one because since we are, like advocating in pro of Web3, like now we have to talk about how can we bring more users on board. And this is really difficult because every time that I try to explain to my father what crypto means, like he is just lost. So I guess what we're trying to achieve is like bringing more people over, people that doesn't have a lot of the technology that, like it's not very technical. How can we bring those people over? So this is going to be 30 minutes discussing with the brilliant minds of the most important wallets that we have in the Dotsama ecosystem. And we're going to talk about, why does it matter, like what they're trying to do to achieve that. So without further ado, let me give a quick introduction to each one of you. Anton is the CEO of Nova Wallet. Agile is the CEO of Talisman. Ryan is the BD manager for Sub Wallet. And Brad is the lead developer for Encrypt. Now, I think I'm going to start with each one of you, and you can take advantage of answering those questions to give like just a quick introduction, maybe of you and the project. But let's start with the question. Like why creating a better user experience is a must for driving Web3 adoption. Maybe you can let's do in alphabetical order. Maybe Agile.
Awesome. Can you hear me clearly?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I guess I'll introduce myself first. So I go by Agile on the internet. It's not my sedate name, but for practical purposes here, I am Agile. I'm the co-founder of Talisman. So we're a technology company building in the Polkadot ecosystem. So we see the multi-chain world as a bit different than people have experienced before and quite daunting. And so we're building the easiest way to get started with Polkadot apps, including those in the Moonbeam ecosystem. So we have a really user-friendly browser extension wallet that you can use with a simple transaction experience and easy on-ramp for getting assets like Glimmer. And if you are a user of a wallet like Encrypt or Subwallet or the Talisman wallet, you can also use our web application to do all kinds of things like one-click staking. Yeah, I guess the question of why user experience is important. I mean, I gave a talk specifically on this at Polkadot Decoded about user experience, and I am a bit of a skeptic of this narrative. While I think user experience and usability is super important, at Talisman we kind of have I guess like a principle, a design principle, which is clarify, don't simplify. I think that the thing that's really powerful about Web3 is when people actually understand the tools that they're leveraging and they can sort of get value out of them. One of the sort of the things happening in the zeitgeist at the moment is people getting wrecked around FTX. And when you abstract Web3 away from people, you end up removing a lot of the benefits. If you want to get rid of private keys or transactions, etc., you kind of have to get rid of a lot of the benefits. And so the most important thing for user experience is helping people to understand the underlying technology and the tool itself, rather than just making it sort of easy and making it a single app with a big button where you press go. But that's kind of my take. And I actually think user experience is not the most important thing, but I can hand it over to others first before I talk about that.
Sure thing. Anton, I must confess that it took me a few seconds to understand if Agile or Anton was the first in this order. So
No worries, no worries. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Anton. I'm CEO and co-founder of Dotsama Technologies. We are a company which is building the high-quality apps for Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem. We have Nova Wallet as iOS and Android application. And we have another one which is kind of has a code name Omni and will be released later this year. And it's supposed to be a desktop enterprise application. And I hear that Agile is very excited about it.
Yeah, very excited.
Yeah. overall, I think that addressing the question, right, why we should create a better experience, I think we can talk about the values, right, which bring the Web3 for the users. Like, you really, as a user, have access to the trustless finance, and in the modern world, you can see that different things happening with different countries, and the crypto is definitely shining right now, allowing people to transfer their finances from one country to another in like no blockers, let's say. So this is really an important advantage that, let's say, Web3 give us. And the role of the wallet provider or interface provider, we need to push things towards the like a simple and convenient user experience, because the mass adoption really needs that. And in this case, I kind of agree with Agile, because you cannot really stretch all of this decentralized experience without sacrificing of its core values, right? And I agree that we can talk more about it, and I should pass my word towards the next speaker.
Hello, I assume that I'm next if we're going alphabetically. I'm Brett Klodney. I am one of the lead developers on Mu's new product, Encrypt, which is a multi-chain Web3 wallet extension. And yeah, so to answer the question of whether, like, how important user experience is, I mean, I would say that it's like one of the most important things to onboarding all of these new users into Web3. Like a lot of different softwares that have been developed, especially like open source software, the emphasis first and foremost is always on like functionality and how powerful the software can be. And that's what it should be first and foremost focused on. But there comes a certain point where if you want people to actually using it, you need to start taking away barriers to entry. So like one really interesting thing that I've learned since I've joined my Ether wallet is sort of, you know, my Ether wallet was the first Ethereum wallet in the space. And it was founded because way back in the day, our founder Kosla, he realized like, well, I mean, at the moment, the only way to interact with Ethereum is through the command line. And that's not going to be getting a lot of people, a lot of liquidity, a lot of users. So he created a web interface. And even back then, you know, what you'd have to do is you export a private key to a JSON. And every single time you wanted to use the application, you'd have to import your private key back into the browser and then use everything again. And I mean, we've come a long way since then into seeing how that's not really something that users are going to want to be doing. It's going to be really confusing to users. So, I mean, I think that, you know, just sort of taking those barriers away little by little, while also, you know, not sacrificing the things that make the software good, are sort of what the goal needs to be. It's a really careful balance, which is what I think everybody else was kind of getting at. You know, we don't want to make it as easy as possible, but then take away all the benefits. But at the same time, we want more users using this, because if a user hops onto one of our amazing applications that we're building, and then there's like a 15-step process to get onboarded, I mean, maybe it's just me, but my attention span would be like, I'm just going to go do something else at that point.
Hi guys, can you hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, cool. Thank you. My name is Ryan, and I'm the Business Development Manager at Soft Wallet, and it's my pleasure to be here today with all of you guys. So I think it's great that today we have a guy, we have Anton and Brett, who are all, I think they are all tech savvy. So I'm not a technical guy, so I would like to share my point of view from the BD and users viewpoint. So for me, why making better user experience is something like very obvious for me, because for the normal users, they are not tech savvy, right? So and also in Web3 industry it is very still in a very early stage. So if we want to like attract more Web2 users to enter the Web3 space, we need to make them we need to make it simple enough for them to understand and to join. So here in Sub Wallet, we are building the multiverse gateway for the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem, and that is also EVM compatible. And we also support Moonbeam, Moonriver, and Moonbase Alpha. One of the reasons that why we decided to build Sub Wallet is also from the end user's viewpoint. So actually, we are kind of early adopter and supporters for the Polkadot ecosystem, and we founded the Polkadot and Web3 Vietnam community here. I think we have around like 10,000 members, and the thing is that we often hear the community complain about the Polkadot JS. That is very difficult for them to use or even to understand. I mean, for the very normal users. So that's why we decided to build Sub Wallet to bring something much better UI UX for the users. And I think in general, so making something better UI UX for the users is a must to onboard more users to Web3.
Yeah, absolutely. So very insightful comments from each one of you. And it's really a lot of things resonates what you guys said. Agile and Anton emphasizes the fact that it's about clarity, and I completely agree. Maybe this is within user experience. Again, friends of mine that has being able to install a wallet, like one of your wallets, but they are very afraid, to do transactions, what is actually happening, and all this stuff. There is, I think, this is kind of a part of the user experience as well. And one of the questions that I had, and maybe I will jump ahead and just switch order, just because we touched base on this one, is okay. It might be very important, like that we deal with clarity, but we do have people like my father, and hopefully he's not seeing this 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 video, because I'm talking about him a lot. But imagine like people like him trying to be on board, and one thing that is kind of a barrier, it is the saving and storing your private keys. But yes, I understand the fact that we're going to compromise something in the Web3, which is we're not going to become trustless anymore. So we're going to have to trust some entity to take care of our private keys. So how do you guys see that? Is that a challenge that you all are trying to overcome, or this is just a fact that we have to accept that the new user will have to adapt, and like preferably he would have to have his own private key, and it's a skill that he has to acquire, like the new users. I don't know. Anybody wants to start with answering?
Yeah, I think I can start. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Agile. So I think Ryan mentioned a good point about Web 2, right? So ideally for mass adoption, we should provide the similar experience that Web 2 users already have, right? So it means that ideally they should not have any new information like tossed to their faces about 12 words, mnemonic passphrases, private keys, right? But it is a reality, right? And one of the ways how you can kind of do the trade-off, and I saw it in some of the projects, so you can do this button like connect using the Google, right? And you can try to do it in a secure way, let's say. So you can try to utilize the Google Drive enclave storage, which means that none of the applications beside yours will have access to it. You can try to encrypt users' secret, and it will result in a way that all Web 2 users can still kind of create their private keys, and they will be stored on their existing Google Drive folders, so they can kind of restore it if they lost, right? So they have always access to it. Everyone has Google account, so it kind of solves this issue of creating or not creating something new. But again, this is, in the end of the day, it's not your keys, right? Because you now just shared your private keys, even in encrypted way. And let's assume that Google cannot decrypt your private key because they probably don't have supercomputer, right? So yeah, kind of you exposing your secret, which is bad. So it might be a solution that you providing a choice for the user. So you either go with this semi-secret and safe solution with the Google, right? Or you do it completely self-custodial and educate the user or those who are willing to be educated, right? But yeah, it has some drawbacks.
Can I offer a contrarian perspective on the idea of Thiago, how we get your father into Web3? So I think we can definitely, through just hardcore innovation, we can improve the security and safety and like retain some of the Web3 value proposition, whilst also making things more convenient. So whether that's the work that Anton is doing with Omni, bringing multi-sigs into the Polkadot ecosystem, whether that's multi-party computation and having a semi-custodial wallet with Coinbase. There's a bunch of projects, and we're also trying to think about how we can leverage tech to improve security without compromising on convenience. Or another way to put it is like, you know, like make something more like have a convenient product that has all of these security like assumptions built in. But back to your father using Web3, the analogy I think I like to use is like, it's important to remember the QWERTY keyboard, right? This is something that we all use every day, but it's not exactly an intuitive, user-friendly interface. It actually required rote memorization, rote learning in order to use, but it's become so ubiquitous and used by everybody because it is an interface to so much value. You know, like we can, on one hand, lower the amount of effort required to leverage Web3. But another thing that we can do is we can increase the payoff for mastering Web3, right? We can increase the value to effort. People do hard things all the time. People run Fortune 500 companies. People launch rockets into space, right? Like people are brilliant. They're really adaptable when there's an adequate incentive. And so, I mean, I'm quite glad that the market is sort of reverting to the mean, because we've seen a lot of zero-sum games, whether it's like of NFT rugs or like yield farming turnips and meme coins and things like that. And these things, I think, aren't a value proposition to the older generation. You know, these are not things that are going to onboard them into Web3. They are all using mobile phones and smartphones and computers these days because email, you know, being able to use rideshare, being able to order food, like being able to interact with government services online. These are all really valuable alternatives to doing things in the, you know, the paper way of doing it, right? Getting the taxi driver on the blower. And so I think what's most important is actually that, you know, we build Web3 services that have a value proposition for the world. You know, crypto so far is much better than the international banking system. I live off crypto. I get paid in stable coins. And so I mean, I use Talisman, but I would be willing, if Talisman didn't exist, I would be willing to put up with MetaMask for that. So I don't have to deal with an international bank. It's not just about the effort dimension. It's about the like relationship between the effort and payoff. And so that's my thinking. And we should be very optimistic because Substrate and the Polkadot ecosystem is allowing us to build amazing stuff, whether it's, you know, decentralized reserve currency with Akala, like on-demand compute with Fala network, storage with Crust, like all of these amazing sort of internet native services are emerging.
Absolutely. Maybe for Ryan, Brad, let me jump into the next question, you know, and you guys can give some inputs on that. You know, like for sure, like just a you know, conclusion from what you both said, Ajay and Anton. You know, I completely agree. It definitely changed the narrative about the payoffs of actually learning this new skill, a new tool to get into the Web3, which, you know, it's a better way instead of compromising some of the securities we have in the Web2 environment. But for Ryan and Brett, maybe you guys can, another kind of a comment that I have, an issue, that I see in some of the wallets. It's about how scary it can get, right? When we are signing up, we are, logging into a new DApp. There's a new DeFi DApp, and they ask, approve this transaction, and they ask to sign the transaction. It's like those terms and conditions when we're selling an app, and we go just agree, next, install, and we don't know what we're doing. But in this case, it's a little bit even scarier because we are actually signing. Even the verb it's more scary than anything else, because it looks like we're doing, like we are giving away some of our liberty in this sense. And when we sign, we see a lot of numbers, a lot of just a code. How users like me, like Agile mentioned about clarity, and maybe that's the subject about clarity. Like, are you guys working on solving this issue? Is there a way from the wallet's perspective to solve this issue? Maybe in the smart contracts, and maybe there's another way to do it from the other end. But is there something from your end?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of different things to that. Because like we said, like previously, I think it's gonna be a recurring theme in this talk. There's a careful balance between like holding the user's hand and doing everything for them, and sort of letting people do what they want to in this like Web3 decentralized space. So I mean, there are simple things that like we already see in wallets. Like we'll have a warning if someone's adding a custom token, just like letting the user know if they're a new user, like, hey, anybody can make a token of any name. Like, go and verify this is the token you should actually be looking at. Here's a link, like here's some explanation, and all of that. And the other like big thing is just working on user education and like language when it comes to these things. Like you said, signing is very scary. And even like we have this issue in Web3 with a lot of these phrases being very like foreign and strange. And so I think that we can do a better job of adapting to language that users might be more familiar with, and just like educating users. So like, we don't want to always do that, but maybe, have like a sign this a transaction. What is signing button? Like I think users would be who are like eager to learn because like Agile said, we're building out these really amazing applications that people want to be using. They'll also be, incentivized to do a little bit of research. But the biggest thing is we want to be presenting that research to people. There's a big difference between being like, hey, you might be doing something scary. Why don't you read up on these things? Versus, hey, you might be doing something scary, period. Go Google it,
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. Brian, any thoughts? Guys, just a quick heads up. We are pretty tight on time. Let's we're gonna basically wrap it up with this question. And I'm gonna give a conclusion. But then afterwards, like I think for everybody that is listening to it, there's links that is gonna be a lot of ways to access and get in touch with all of those brilliant minds that we have in here today. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Thiago. I think the biggest thing in Web3 is that the concept of Web3 is completely different from Web2, right? So when I first got into Web3, I think it took me about a week or maybe 2 weeks to understand about Web3 and understand about how to use MetaMask and Trust Wallet. And I think signing transaction can be very scary. Scams are very everywhere. But I think we can to minimize the risk, we can the wallets can integrate with the libraries that can be have the warning when people enter the website that on the scam list, or they sign with the smart contracts that is not being verified by trusted sources, something like Certic or Trails of Bit. In the Polkadot ecosystem, I think we have one example is the Polkadot JS phishing. So when you enter the scam website, it will like have a red flag for you to notice that, and it will not allow you to like enter that website. But this is the community driven work, and I think that's great. But still, in the Web3 space, I think the most important thing is that to do your own research. And because the core values of Web3 is decentralization, self-control, and trustless. So it's very important that the users understand the concept and the core value of Web3 when they enter the Web3 space. And I think that's take time for the users to understand, and we need to be patient about that.
Sure thing. You know, like this was so insightful because I got here with the mentality how we adapt Web3 into a Web2 environment because, you know, we have Web2 users. But the truth is, I think with every technology, there is a learning curve for all the new users. You know, when this Web3 is completely disruptive. We are living in a disruptive environment and trying to make the difference in the world in a very large scale. So I can agree with you all, you know, that the best way is to educate more and help learning the process and creating more clarity. So what people are doing, you know, and I will just finish it up with a joke that a friend of mine told, you know, like he said that I just signed a transaction and I got married, you know. So we don't know what could happen when you sign a transaction, but thank you so much, Ryan, for giving this insight of you know, blacklisting bad transactions or bad contracts or, you know, signatures or addresses in this sense. And thank you so much, Brett, for your insights as well. I'd like to thank you, Anton and Agile, for being here. I definitely would probably have like hours of conversations in this topic, and we're gonna jump ahead and maybe schedule something in the Moonbeam communities in the future, and we can have this talk afterwards. But I would like to thank you all for coming in.
Awesome. Thank you, Thiago. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thiago. Thank you, everyone.
Check out talisman.xyz, friends.